Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Naranarayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and the rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, good morning. Today we will be reciting Srimad Bhagavatam from Canto 7, Chapter 8, text 14 through 33. Let's first get started by reading all the translations, and then we will discuss verse number 17. Marsh, would you like to start? 14, yeah.
Okay. Being obsessed with anger, Hiranyakashipu, who was very great in bodily strength, thus chastised his exalted devotee son, Prahlad, with harsh words. Cursing him again and again, Hiranyakashipu took up his sword, got up from his royal throne, and with great anger struck his fist against the column.
Then from within the pillar came a fearful sound which appeared to crack the covering of the universe. Oh my dear Yudhishthira, this sound reached even the abodes of the demigods like Brahma, and when the demigods heard it, they thought, oh, now our planets are being destroyed.
Text 16. While showing his extraordinary prowess, Hiranyakashipu, who desired to kill his own son, heard that wonderful tumultuous sound, which had never been before being heard. On hearing the sound, the other leaders of the demons were afraid. None of them could find the origin of that sound in the assembly.
To prove that the statement of his servant Prahlad Maharaj was substantial, in other words, to prove that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of an assembly hall, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, exhibited a wonderful form never before seen. The form was neither that of a man, nor that of a lion. Thus the Lord appeared in his wonderful form in the assembly hall.
When Hiranyakashipu looked all around to find the source of the sound, that wonderful form of the Lord, which could not be ascertained to be either a man or a lion, emerged from the pillar. In amazement, Hiranyakashipu wondered, what is this creature that is half man and half lion?
Hiranyakashipu studied the form of the Lord, trying to decide who the form of Nrsimhadev standing before him was. The Lord's form was extremely fearsome because of his angry eyes, which resembled molten gold, his shining mane, which expanded the dimensions of his fearful face, his deadly teeth, and his razor-sharp tongue, which moved about like a dueling sword. His ears were erect and motionless, and his nostrils and gaping mouth appeared like caves of a mountain. His jaws parted fearfully, and his entire body touched the sky. His neck was very short and thick, his chest broad, his waist thin, and the hairs on his body as white as the rays of the moon. His arms, which resembled flanks of soldiers, spread in all directions as he killed the demons, rogues, and atheists with his conch shell, disc, cross, lotus, and other natural weapons.
Hiranyakashipu murmured to himself, Lord Vishnu, who possesses great mystic power, has made this plan to kill me. But what is the use of such an attack? Who can fight with me? Thinking like this and taking up his club, Hiranyakashipu attacked the Lord like an elephant.
Just as a small insect falls forcefully into a fire and the insignificant creature becomes invisible, when Hiranyakashipu attacked the Lord, who was full of effulgence, Hiranyakashipu became invisible. This is not at all astonishing, for the Lord is always treated in openness. Formerly, during creation, he entered the dark universe and illuminated it by his spiritual effulgence.
Thereafter, the great demon Hiranyakashipu, who was extremely angry, swiftly attacked Nrsimhadev with his club and began to beat him. Lord Nrsimhadev, however, captured the great demon along with his club, just as Garud might capture a great snake.
O Yudhishthira, O great son of Bharat, and Lord Nrsimhadev gave Hiranyakashipu a chance to slip from his hand, just as Garuda sometimes plays with a snake and lets it slip from his mouth. The demigods, who had lost their abodes and who were hiding behind the clouds for fear of the demon, did not consider that incident very good. Indeed, they were perturbed.
When Hiranyakashipu was free from the hands of Nrsimhadev, he falsely thought that the Lord was afraid of his powers. Therefore, after taking a little rest from the fight, he took up his sword and shield and again attacked the Lord with great force.
Making a Lord, shield sound of laughter, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, who is extremely strong and powerful, captured Hiranyakashipu, who was protecting himself with his sword and shield, leaving no gaps open. With the speed of a hawk, Hiranyakashipu moved sometimes in the sky and sometimes on the earth. His eyes closed because of fear of Nrsimhadev's laughter.
As a snake captures a mouse or Garuda captures a very venomous snake, Lord Nrsimhadev captured Hiranyakashipu, who could not be pierced even by the thunderbolt of King Indra. As Hiranyakashipu moved his limbs here, there, and all around, very much affected at being captured, Lord Nrsimhadev placed the demon on his lap, supporting him with his thighs, and in the doorway of the assembly hall, the Lord very easily tore the demon to pieces with the nails of his hand.
Lord Nrsimha's mouth and mane were sparkled with drops of blood.
Sprinkled
with drops and blood, and his eyes full of anger were impossible to look at. Licking the edge of his mouth with his tongue, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nrsimhadev, decorated with a garland of incense taken from Hiranyakashipu's abdomen, resembled a lion that has just killed an elephant.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had many grooves, first uprooted Hiranyakashipu's heart and then threw him aside, turned towards the demon soldier. These soldiers had come in thousands to fight with him with raised weapon and were very faithful followers of Hiranyakashipu. But Lord Nrsimhadev killed all of them merely with the ends of his knees.
The hair on the crown of Divya's head shook the clouds and scattered them here and there. His glaring eyes stole the effulgence of the luminaries in the sky, and his breathing agitated the seas and oceans. Because of his roaring, all the elephants in the world began to cry in fear.
I'll read the last one. Airplanes were thrown into outer space and the upper planetary system by the hair on Nrsimhadev's head. Because of the pressure of the Lord's lotus feet, the earth appeared to slip from its position, and all the hills and mountains sprang up due to his intolerable force. Because of the Lord's bodily effulgence, both the sky and all directions diminished in their natural illumination. All right, so let's go back to text number 17 and recite the verse. Satyam vidatum nijabritya bhashitam Vyaptim cha bhuteshvakileshu chatmanaha. Adrishyatat adbhuta rupamudvahan. Stamba sabhayam namrgam namanusham.
Satyam vidatum nitya britya bhashitam.
Satyam vidatum nija britya bhashitam.
Vyaptim cha bhuteshu akhileshu chatmanaha.
Vyaptim cha bhuteshvakileshu chatmanaha. Adryashvatatyadutarupamudvahan. Stambe sabhayam namrigam namanusham. Satyam vidatum nijabritya bhashitam. Vyaptim cha bhuteshvakileshu chatmanaha. Adrishyatatyadutarupamudvahan. Stambe sabhayam namrigam namanusham.
Satyam vidhatum nijabritya bhashitam.
Satyam vidatum nijabritya bhashitam. Vyaptim cha bhuteshvakileshu chatmanaha. Adrishyatatyadutarupamudvahan. Stambe sabhayam namrigam namanusham.
Satyam vidatam nijabritya bhashitam.
Satyam vidatum nijabritya bhashitam. Vyaptim cha bhuteshvakileshu chatmanaha. Adrashyatatyadutarupamudvahan. Stambe sabhayam namrigam namanusham. Let's recite the synonyms together. Satyam, true, vidatum, to prove, nija britya bhashitam, the words of his own servant Prahlad Maharaj, who had said that his Lord is present everywhere. Vyaptim, the pervasion, cha, and, bhuteshu, among the living entities and elements, akileshu, all, cha, also, atmanaha, of himself, adrishyata, was seen, ati, very, adbhuta, wonderful, rupam, form, udvahan, taking, stambe, in the pillar, sabhayam, within the assembly, na, not, mrigam, an animal, na, nor, manusham, a human being. Let's read the translation purport together again. To prove that the statement of his servant Prahlad Maharaj was substantial, in other words, to prove that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of an assembly hall, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, exhibited a wonderful form never before seen, of a man nor that of a lion. Thus the Lord appeared in his wonderful form in the assembly hall. Let's read the purport together. When Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad Maharaj, "Where is your Lord? Is he present in this pillar?" Prahlad Maharaj fearlessly replied, "Yes, my Lord is present everywhere." Therefore, to convince Hiranyakashipu that the statement of Prahlad Maharaj was unmistakably true, the Lord appeared from the pillar. The Lord appeared as half lion and half man, so that Hiranyakashipu could not understand whether the great giant was a lion or a human being. To substantiate Prahlad's statement, the Lord proved that his devotee, as declared in Bhagavad Gita, is never vanquished. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Prahlad Maharaj's demoniac father had repeatedly threatened to kill Prahlad, but Prahlad was confident that he could not be killed, since he was protected by the Supreme Lord. Appearing from the pillar, the Lord encouraged his devotees, saying in effect, "Don't worry, I am present here." By manifesting his form as Nrsimhadev, the Lord also preserved the truth of Lord Brahma's promise that Hiranyakashipu was not to be killed by any animal or any man. The Lord appeared in a form that could not be said to be fully a man or a lion. So we're finally at the part in the canto where Lord Nrsimhadev finally appears. So Lord Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki Jai. Let's just quickly recap everything that has happened so far in the canto. So at the beginning of Canto 7, we learned about Hiranyakashipu, and we learned that he wanted to become immortal. So out of his foolishness, he started to worship Lord Brahma because he thought Lord Brahma could grant him immortality. So he did all kinds of severe austerities and penances, and Lord Brahma finally had to come. And Lord Brahma couldn't grant him immortality because Brahma himself isn't immortal. So Hiranyakashipu thought himself to be very intelligent and asked for a variety of conditions in which he would not be killed. So one of them is, or a few of them are, he would not be killed in the air nor on land. He would not be killed by any weapon or nor by any animal, and several others. And Lord Brahma granted that granted those benedictions. And Hiranyakashipu became extremely puffed up and began to he was already a demon, but he started to terrorize the devatas and the demigods even more. And it got to such a point where his wife Kayadu was pregnant with a son, and the demigods had feared that the Hiranyakashipu was already so horrible. Just imagine how terrible the son might be. So they had devised a plan to kill the baby inside of Kayadu's womb. But Narada Muni, he stepped in and he taught Bhagavatam to Kayadu, and inside of Kayadu's womb, Prahlad Maharaj learned Bhagavatam, and from his birth he became a pure devotee. And when Prahlad Maharaj grew up, he was enrolled in a school so that he can become a first-class materialist. But he didn't accept, he rejected everything that his teachers were telling him, and in fact started to share Krishna consciousness with his friends and his teachers. And Hiranyakashipu became so fed up with that, he began to punish him. He began to punish Prahlad Maharaj, put him in all kinds of calamities and difficulties. He threw him off a cliff, put him in an enclosure with a bunch of elephants so that he would get stomped to death, and several others. And this is the turning point. None of those things had killed or had harmed Prahlad Maharaj in any way. And Hiranyakashipu finally confronts Prahlad Maharaj and asks, "Is your Lord in this pillar?" And Prahlad Maharaj says the Lord Krishna is omnipresent, he's present everywhere, and of course he's in this pillar. And Hiranyakashipu, to challenge that statement, he struck the pillar down, and Lord Nrsimhadev finally appears. So that's where we are right now. In the verse, the first line says, "Satyam Vedatum Nija Britya Bhashitam." So this line explains that Lord Krishna, he appeared simply to make the words of his devotee come true. When S.B. Keshav Maharaj visited Toronto in September, he shared a beautiful name of Krishna called Satya Sankalpa, which means whatever words his devotees speak and whatever words Lord Krishna speaks, they must come true. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that it wasn't just Prahlad Maharaj's words who had to come true, but also Brahma's words. And in that lecture, Keshav Maharaj was explaining, he mentioned an individual and a group of individuals whose words also had to come true. So in total, four people's words had to come true. So we spoke about Prahlad Maharaj, we spoke about Brahma. Can anyone recall the other two groups of people whose words had to come true? Anyone? No? Arjuna? Oh, I meant in the context of this pastime.
Narada Muni?
Yes, Narada Muni is one, and there's one more. Four more.
Prahlad Maharaj.
Prahlad Maharaj we already discussed. The other group is the four Kumaras. So Narada Muni, he had said that to not kill Prahlad Maharaj because the devotee born of Kayadu, the son born of Kayadu, will become a great devotee of Lord Krishna, and his devotion will cause Lord Krishna to appear in a never before seen form. So So those words also came true. Yes, Antivichvaru?
Why, Hiranyakashipu was so horrible, none of his karmas were good, still he was blessed with a devotee son. Why?
So, because of Narada Muni's mercy, Narada Muni stepped in, intervened. We know from previous classes that Prahlad Maharaj was given the benediction that he would become a devotee because of he was blessed to become a devotee, but suppose that didn't happen. Because Narada Muni intervened, because he was able to share Bhagavatam, because Prahlad Maharaj in the womb was receptive to it, that's why he became a devotee. Okay, and the other group of people were the 4 Kumaras. So the 4 Kumaras, there was a misunderstanding between the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, right? Jay and Vijay and the 4 Kumaras, and they had cursed Jay and Vijay to appear as demons, but promised that Lord Krishna would come deliver them. So those words also came true. So in total, Lord Krishna, he had to make all 4 of these people's words come true. As Satya Sankalpa. Now, so whatever Lord Krishna speaks has to come true. Now there's a particular book or text that is filled with Lord Krishna's words. Can anyone tell me what that book is called?
Book?
Yeah.
Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, Bhagavad Gita. Okay, and in that book, in chapter 7, there's a verse that Lord Krishna explains that several types of people come to him. Can anyone recall or state what that verse is?
The 4 kinds of people?
Oh, say the verse.
Chaturvida Vajanti Mam. Chaturvida Vajanti Mam.
Jana.
Jana Sukrita Arjuna. Artho Jignasur Artharthi Gnani Chadardarshana.
Can you state the translation or paraphrase what the meaning is?
I can paraphrase. The 4 kinds. Krishna says 4 kinds of paths may approach me. The inquisitive, the one who's looking for the knowledge of the absolute, the one who's looking for material, to fulfill his material desires, and one
who's in distress.
Who's in distress.
Right. So let's focus on the distress part. So Prahlad Maharaj was put into all kinds of distressful conditions, right? But he did not approach Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna, I'm in distress, please come help me. He did not do that. Yet Lord Krishna appeared anyways. And the reason why this happens is because Lord Krishna is also referred as Bhakta Vatsala. He's extremely inclined towards his devotees. He's very inclined. And Keshav Maharaj in another lecture mentions that there are 3 forms of Krishna that are known as Paravasta, and they're considered to be the most important forms of Krishna because they exemplify this Bhakta Vatsalya feature to the highest degree. The names of these forms of Krishna we discussed at the very beginning when we first started discussing Canto 7. Would anyone like to say what the names of these forms of Krishna are? Okay, Narasimhadev, Lord Ramachandra, Lord Krishna himself. The reason why these forms of Krishna are so important is because they're the most involved in their devotees' lives, and they give the most intimacy, the most reciprocation, and the most love with their devotees. And so let's discuss how each of these 3 forms of Krishna exemplify the Bhakta Vatsalya feature and how they are always there to protect their devotees. So let's go back to Lord Narasimhadev. So Lord Narasimhadev, he appeared to fulfill the words of Prahlad Maharaj, and Prahlad Maharaj, in the 9th process of devotional service, we know that Prahlad Maharaj represents Smaranam. He's always remembering Krishna. He never explicitly called out for Lord Narasimhadev to appear, but Lord Narasimhadev appeared just to make the words of Prahlad Maharaj come true and to also protect him. And normally when someone becomes really angry, what happens? They lose their composure, they lose their intelligence, right? But Lord Krishna, he exhibited a form of transcendental anger where he did not lose his composure, where he did not lose his intelligence. He was given a brain teaser, he was given a difficult task. He had to appear in such a way where Brahma's words couldn't be neglected, Prahlad Maharaj's words couldn't be neglected, the 4 Kumaras and Narada Muni. And he didn't lose his intelligence, and he appeared as Nrsimhadev to protect Prahlad Maharaj. But not just that, he also, later on we will read that Nrsimhadev actually Prahlad Maharaj had asked Lord Nrsimhadev to purify Hiranyakashipu, to pardon him, but and Lord Nrsimhadev, out of his causeless mercy, said not just Hiranyakashipu, but 21 generations of her family will become purified. And so Lord Nrsimhadev's appearance, his appearance and his willingness to do all of this to make his devotees' words come true exemplifies his Bhakta Vatsalya feature. Now next, let's talk about Lord Ramachandra. So the Ramayana there's many interactions of Lord Ramachandra with his devotees in the Ramayana. But the one that I want to focus on is when Vibhishan absconds from Ravana's camp, Ravana's army, Ravana's army, and comes to join Lord Ramachandra. He wants to join his army, Lord Ramachandra's army. And Lord Ramachandra consults with Sugriva first. He asks him, okay, this person is from our enemy's camp but wants to join, what should I do? And Sugriva immediately tells him that to reject him because he came from the enemy, right? And then Lord Ramachandra asks Hanuman. And Hanuman says, Lord Ramachandra, you should accept him. You should accept him because you're so kind that no matter who approaches you, you will always give them protection. And so, and soon after this, Sugriva asks, if Ravana comes to ask you for shelter, will you give him shelter? And he said, yes. What to speak of Vibhishan, I'll also give shelter to Ravana if he comes and asks for it. So Ramachandra exemplifies this, that even his sworn enemy Ravana, if he were to come and take shelter of Lord Ramachandra, he would also protect him, he would also look after him. And one of Lord Ramachandra's qualities is that he never forgets anything any service that's rendered to him or any service that's rendered to any of his lineage or dynasty, he will never forget that. In the Ramayana, there is one incident where Mother Sita and Lord Ramachandra were resting under a tree and a bird comes and scratches Mother Sita. And Lord Ramachandra was ready to kill that bird. But Lord Ramachandra remembered that the bird in the previous life rendered some service, so he forgave that bird. So this is how Lord Ramachandra exemplifies the Bhakta Vatsalya feature. He's extremely forgiving and he's ready to offer full protection for anyone that approaches him. And he's ready to involve involve himself in their lives, right? Also in Ramayana, like Sugriva, he was ousted from his kingdom. There was a huge misunderstanding between him and his brother Vali. And Lord Ramachandra, he agreed to help him, and Sugriva also agreed to help Lord Ramachandra, and so much time had passed between when Sugriva finally regained his kingdom and his family back, and Lord Ramachandra he was never impatient. Oh, you asked me to help you, and I helped you, and now you're trying to help me. He was never impatient. He let things happen as they were, and eventually Sugriva started to help Lord Ramachandra, but Lord Ramachandra exemplifies that he involves himself in his devotee's life, right? That Jatayu, he was a vulture who sacrificed himself to save Mother Sita, and Lord Ramachandra performed his final rites. Lord Ramachandra didn't even perform the final rites for his father, but he did that for his devotee. So that's how Lord Ramachandra involves himself in his devotee's life. So now let's discuss Lord Krishna. Okay? So how does Lord Krishna involve himself in his devotees' life and how does he protect them? So we know in Lord Krishna, in Raja Leela, he's always killing demons and saving the Vrindavan Vasis from various demons. But today let's focus on him and his relationship with the Pandavas. Okay? So before the Kurukshetra battle, Arjuna and Duryodhana both came to visit Krishna and came to seek blessings and benedictions from him, right? Now, Duryodhana wanted Krishna's resources. He wanted his army, he wanted his strength, he wanted his resources. And Lord Krishna granted him that. But for Arjuna was about to embark on the most important and most difficult battle of his life. And because of what he because of what he's about to embark on, he just wanted his friend next to him. He just wanted Lord Krishna to be by his side because, he just wanted his friend there to be by his side as he's going to go do something difficult. And Lord Krishna reciprocated with that love. So Arjuna approached Lord Krishna out of pure love, and Lord Krishna reciprocated with that. Now Lord Krishna, he's a king, he's an emperor, right? He's sitting on a throne in Dwarka. He steps down from that position to become a chariot driver for his friend, right? He steps down from all of that and he renders all kinds of menial service for his devotee, right? It's said that in the Mahabharata, Lord Krishna, he would sleep after everyone would sleep, but he would be the first person to wake up. He would make a moat for the little horses so that the horses had enough water to drink. And whenever there were a few instances in the battle where Arjuna and the Pandavas made some, statements, difficult vows that would be very difficult for them to carry out. But Lord Krishna, he would be filled with anxiety all night. Oh my gosh, Arjuna said this, how is he going to do it? I'm ready to break my vow. I don't care if people think badly of me, but Arjuna, I want him to win. And he was prepared to go to any lengths to make sure his devotees were kept safe. And if I'm not mistaken, at the end of the battle, it was just Duryodhana left and the 5 Pandavas. And they had said, they asked Duryodhana, okay, you pick any one of us to fight, and if you win, then you can have everything. And Krishna, he's become so upset. He's like, what if Duryodhana picks Bhima because he always had animosity and envy towards Bhima, and he felt that out of all the Pandavas, Bhima was his equal. So he picked him, but Krishna was like, what if he picked Nakul and Sahadev? Imagine what would have happened if he picked, the youngest, the 2 twins. And so he was always full of anxiety, and he and in the battle, there's in Bhishma Dev's prayers to or his instructions to Yudhishthira Maharaj. Could you pull up that verse, Prabhu? It's Canto 1, chapter
934.
Yeah, 934. Could you pull that up, please? Yeah.
Translation?
Yes, translation. So this is what Bhishma Dev saw on the other side as he was fighting Arjuna and Krishna. Now, we always read about Krishna being very attractive. He has very curly hair, he wears a peacock feather, he has lotus-like eyes, and he's very beautiful. But look at what Bhishma Dev had to see. Bhishma Dev saw Krishna with ash and dirt in his hair. He was sweating. He was being pierced by arrows. And Lord Krishna, yes, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's experiencing all of this for his friend. And because he's a chariot driver, right? It's a very common tactic to eliminate the chariot driver, because if the chariot driver is gone, then the warrior, the fighter, can't go anywhere. So it'll be easier to kill them. So everyone would target Lord Krishna. And although his body is impervious to anything, it still was, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that it still was disturbing to Lord Krishna, and he experienced all of this for the sake of his devotee. He put himself through all of this just to take care of his devotee, just to protect his devotee. So if you could scroll down just a bit, we can read what Srila Prabhupada says. So it says right here, somewhere here it says, a little bit further down. Okay, yeah, a little bit further down, I think it's, yeah. Okay, I think it's further up, but it's fine. Srila Prabhupada writes that the arrows were a sort of disturbance to Lord Krishna. So we've discussed Lord Ramachandra, Lord Narasimhadev, and Lord Krishna, how they look after their devotees. So what are we to learn from all of this? So we should always approach Lord Krishna for anything. We should always take exclusive shelter of him, because he's very kind to his devotees. And Krishna says in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Chaturveda Bhajanti Mam, he mentions 4 kinds of people do come to him. And Srila Prabhupada writes in those purport that although it's a little transactionary in nature, devotees approach Lord Krishna only because they want something, and it's not pure devotional service, right? That's okay, because that exchange, although it's transactionary initially, it's an exchange of affection. Lord Krishna is very inclined, whenever someone approaches Lord Krishna for anything, he becomes very pleased. I heard a devotee describe Krishna like this. We can turn to anybody for any of our desires, right? But when you turn to Krishna, Krishna is like, you're coming to me? You're coming to me with this desire? Wow. And Lord Krishna, he's most intelligent, right? Whenever you approach Lord Krishna with any of your desire, he'll give you exactly what is needed for you and nothing more, enough to keep you satisfied. For instance, someone may want to become a billionaire or win the lottery, something they want to acquire a lot of money right away. Lord Krishna may not fulfill that desire. He may give them a bonus at work, okay? Instead of $1 billion, here's a bonus at work. So Krishna is very intelligent and he knows what's best for all of us. So we should, we should approach Lord Krishna with all of our desires and we should. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 22, chapter 22, verse 100, let's go up. So it's written that Anukul yasya sankalpa pratikul yasya varjanam rakshishyatiti vishvaso goptritve varnam tata atmanikshepa karpanye shadvida sharnagati. So these are 6 ways one can surrender to Lord Krishna. And the one that I want to highlight, and each of them are progressive. So initially one starts off by accepting things that are favorable to Krishna, and then eventually things that are unfavorable will automatically be rejected and so on. But the one that I want to focus here is the third one, is to have the conviction that Lord Krishna will give one full protection, and then to accept Lord Krishna as one's guardian or master and their maintainer. So from all the examples that we've discussed so far, simply by turning your attention to Lord Krishna will be very pleased. And you need not necessarily have to call out to Krishna. There's examples like Draupadi. She was in a very precarious situation. She was in such a helpless condition that none of her husbands could help her. None of the senior kings and emperors that were within that assembly could help her. And so she had to plead and call out to Krishna, and Krishna was there. But in Prahlad Maharaj's case, Prahlad Maharaj simply accepted whatever was coming to him. He never protested, no, Father, don't do this. No, it's not right. He never protested, he never said no. He simply accepted everything that was coming to him. And Lord Krishna, out of his causeless mercy and out of his affection and love for Prahlad Maharaj, would protect him in each and every one of those instances where he was kept into difficulty. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we learn about Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, his only purpose of life is to chant Krishna's names and to share them with others, right? He would do this, and 21 marketplaces he was beaten. He was taken and beaten because he was just trying to encourage people to chant the names of Krishna, right? But Mahaprabhu, it's later revealed that Mahaprabhu faced the brunt of all those whipping and all those beatings. He didn't let any of that touch Haridas Thakur. He endured all of that himself out of his causeless mercy for his devotee. And so that's what I wanted to share today. I wanted to share that Lord Krishna always protects his devotees, and it is in our best interest to turn to Lord Krishna because he knows what's best for us, and by turning to Lord Krishna, he will always be with us. And in the Bhagavad Gita, and in the verse that we recited from Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada writes that Kaunteya pratijanihi nami bhakta pranashyati, right? His devotees will never perish. And then also in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Sarvadhamman parityaja, right? That, abandon all varieties of religion, just surrender unto me, and he'll save us, he'll deliver us from all sinful reactions. So, Lord Krishna, all the previous acharyas, Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada, everyone is encouraging us to turn towards Lord Krishna. And so, we should make an endeavor to just turn to Lord Krishna. And although we may feel like there's some unqualification, or we may feel disqualified, or we may feel, oh, I'm very unclean, I'm very dirty, that's okay. We'll become purified in the process. And then in Canto 2, right, there's a verse, Akama sarva kamava moksha kamo dharati tivrena bhakti yogena yurida purusham param. So it says that regardless of whether one has all desires, no desires, one wants liberation, one should practice bhakti and approach Lord Krishna, because it's a purifying process. With that, I'd like to end. And if there's any discussion, we can speak now. Anybody wants to answer? Hare Krishna, yes?
So talking about faith, so even after it's like, many Bhagavatam speakers, many senior devotees, and Srila Prabhupada and Bhagavatam itself is saying to have faith in Krishna, but why do some people take shelter of demigods? Or even wearing certain stones and stuff, like depending upon what the astrologer said, like If you have faith in Krishna, you have faith.
So people place their faith. So I think in chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita it's explained that people, when they approach demigods, is usually due to a lack of improper understanding. And Lord Krishna, he also said in Bhagavad Gita that if one wants to approach a demigod, one wants to approach someone else for shelter, he'll provide all the facilities for them to do that. He won't prevent anyone from going to anyone. So Krishna doesn't stop anyone from approaching whoever they want to approach. And so some people may approach a demigod or other persons for shelter purely out of lack of proper knowledge. And by associating with the right devotees and by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, reading Bhagavad Gita, reading Bhagavatam, they'll come to understand that although demigods may provide benedictions, ultimately everything comes from Krishna anyways. And if I'm not mistaken, whenever some yajna is performed for some demigod, ultimately I think there's some prayers that explain that all of this ultimately goes to Lord Krishna. So people just don't understand. People don't have the right facilities, the right circumstances for them to understand this knowledge. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Maharaj, yes?
Yes, thanks. Nice job, John. Okay, now, going to the shloka where Krishna says, I've seen a lot of devotees perish in the last little while, especially Prabhupada disciples who are in their 70s and 80s. They've been dropping off like flies. So how do we understand a devotee doesn't perish when they are?
So, from my understanding, it's not so. Unfortunately, we're all in a material body. So the material body has a certain amount of time, on this earth, maybe max 100 years, and so it has to live out that life. But I think what Lord Krishna is saying that the devotee never perishes here is that it's that whatever spiritual credits one acquires over the course of their life by performing devotional service, that part will never be taken away. It won't diminish, and wherever one finishes their spirit. So suppose someone is chanting some number of rounds but hasn't become a pure devotee yet, and time may come where they have to leave their body, but in their next life, Lord Krishna will give them an opportunity to not start from the beginning, but to start from wherever they left off previously. So all of that effort never perishes. Their spiritual pious credits will not perish. They can just continue from wherever they left off. And I think that's what Lord Krishna is saying here. And so, yeah, Maharaj.
Very good.
Very nice.
Anybody else?
Would like to add something?
Mm-hmm.
So, as you mentioned Lord Rama, there was one more incident where after Rama killed Ravana, okay, the first thing that he says to Lakshmana, go and listen the last words from Ravana. And immediately Lakshmana says, what? You want me to listen last words from the demon? Yes, his demon. I have to do my dharma. I did my dharma. But he is well-versed person, he is Brahmana too. He knows lot of Sanskrit things. He didn't apply it. But last words you must hear from him, that's spoken. So that's what it shows is just did his duties, not kill for any of his own purposes.
That's right. That's right. And Keshav Maharaj, and I was listening to a lecture by Keshav Maharaj in preparation for this class, and he was saying that Lord Krishna, whenever he exhibits, so Maharaj was explaining that there are three types of powerful emotions: anger, love, and fear. And whenever Lord Krishna exhibits this, it's never or Krishna doesn't exhibit fear, but whenever he displays an emotion, there's no selfishness. There's nothing to do with him here. Like when he's displaying anger to Hiranyakashipu, it's not because he's trying to be angry for the sake of being angry, but he's being angry, exhibiting transcendental anger, because Hiranyakashipu was a threat and was extremely malicious towards Prahlad Maharaj and the devotees. And so, yeah, thank you for sharing that, Venkatesh Prabhu. Oh, thank you for that.
I just wanted to say that I really like the point where you talked about how Lord Krishna was always in anxiety.
Yeah.
That's very cliche. Like imagine him going up and down the room thinking, oh my god, he took this vow, I have to take care of this vow now. And then next day it's like, okay, oh, another vow, and then I have to take care of this, which is so funny. Because sometimes we think that Krishna is not listening. Krishna is just, he's just there. Like, he doesn't care about anything we're going through. And then you realize, okay, he's going up and down his room right now thinking of solving your stupid problem that you just created by yourself. So it's just like,
yeah. Yeah. Keshav Maharaj in the lecture said, if you want to confuse Krishna, go to Krishna with no desires. If you want to confuse Krishna, go to him with no desires. Then he's going to be like, what? No desires? But if you approach Lord Krishna purely because you want him as who he is, you want to come to him, to love him, then Krishna has nothing, he can't reciprocate with that. He can only give himself, right? That's what happens to the gopis. The gopis had no desire, they wanted nothing from Krishna except love for Krishna, right? And Lord Krishna said, I can't repay this. So, I'm like, he gives himself to the gopis, right? So yeah, and there's one thing that I wanted to reiterate. So Lord Krishna was an influential person, right? And he stepped down from that. He's a king. He stepped down from that to serve his devotee. And it reminds me of Maharaj at the Mississauga temple opening. Maharaj, you were offering lamps to all the devotees. You were giving the arati to them. And it's such an endearing quality to see someone of influence, someone of, seniority, serving. It's very nice to see. And I saw a picture of Keshav Maharaj. He's so tall, but he's bending down to serve prashadam for devotees. Like, it's such a nice quality to see, seeing someone of influence, someone of seniority, to serve others. And Keshav Maharaj was explaining that Krishna, he becomes subservient to his devotee. When someone approaches Lord Krishna with pure love, Lord Krishna becomes their servant. And all the examples we've discussed, Jatayu, Lord Ramachandran Jatayu, Prahlad Maharaj and Nrsimhadev, even Vamanadev and Bali Maharaj, right? We were discussing, right? Vamanadev became Bali Maharaj's doorkeeper, right? And then Krishna and Arjuna, he was serving them. Krishna, in all these instances, was serving his devotee. Any other points? Oh, Rohan Prabhu?
So, Prabhu, you have seen that like Narad Muni, whenever Krishna appears or like he's going to appear, he knows that he's coming, and whatever pastime he Krishna does, like in the Vrindavan also, like killing the demons and killing nuns and doing also like killing Hiranyakashipu. He knows all the pastime, and he is like a future predator, or like he knows everything.
So Narada Muni, I think he's described as Trikalagya, meaning he knows past, present, and future. I can't elaborate more on this. I just know that he's Trikalagya, that he knows everything. He can see past, present, and future. So, yeah, I'm not sure how more to elaborate on this, but I can do research and get back to you, Prabhu. But March, he was asking.
He is knowing everything.
Right. Amala Harinam, Prabhu.
Thank you for wonderfully presenting this glorious pastime. My question to you is, you mentioned that Krishna has a better friend for us every single time, and he's like, we might think it's not happening, but sometimes when somebody is going through a lot of stress, he's unable to see this thing. Let's take an example of old people. They are getting a lot of diseases and something. So how can we see Krishna's friend every day, like especially in that case? First, they were like able to do their thing, like their usual things, like they are doing worshipping and everything, but now they are unable to do.
So Keshav Maharaj, so there's actually a field of religious studies that deals with this, why do bad things happen to good people, right? There is an entire field of religious studies that deals with understanding that. And I just read this yesterday. I hope I can recall it properly, but Keshav Maharaj says that, or I just listened to this, that this is not one life, right? This is one chapter in a huge book, right? There's many chapters before, there's many lives that we had to take, and this is just one life that we're in right now. And so why what's happening in this life, it's hard to say exactly. It might have been because of something someone might have done in their previous life. But Keshav Maharaj says that to understand God's love for us, we have to understand the breadth and length of our existence, something along those lines. I might have not said it correctly, but yeah, so Krishna has been with us from time immemorial, and he's a witness to each and every one of our activities. And so what happens, it's very difficult to understand, it's difficult to understand why unpalatable things, undesirable things happen to someone. But irrespective of that, Krishna is always there with us, right? He's always there. Even if someone were to go to the hellish planets to suffer, Krishna is still there as Super Soul. He never leaves them. He's never away from his devotee in any circumstances, right? So yeah. Say that. Yes.
So Krishna usually does that to glorify his own devotee. Like Srila Prabhupada was knocked down in Delhi by a bull, and he was bleeding, right? And he still went on. So this is to glorify his devotees, and at the same time, like Yudhishthira Maharaj, he's just, if you just observe the life of Yudhishthira Maharaj, he's just, is it full of disappointment? Like every morning he's waking up, every single incident, it's just disappointing to him. He has no like rasa or like some enjoyment, or he's just disappointed. This is to glorify a devotee. There's one example also of Prabhupada disciple Jayananda Maharaj, who was like very, very close to Srila Prabhupada in many ways, and after his disappearance, it is only him for whom Srila Prabhupada said we will celebrate a disappearance day of a devotee. So he had leukemia, and he would do so much of service, and he would always do it at the in the back, never in the front. And then what happened is when he got leukemia, everyone was like questioning, like why did he get leukemia? And like how could Krishna be so harsh? He's just doing so much of service, but blah blah blah. And then Jayananda Prabhu's take was that so during this time also, he was wanting to start Rath Yatra in Los Angeles, and then at the same time there was no money, and it was just hard, like also to convince the management, etc. So when he got leukemia, there was a lot of money, $10,000 at that time. For his insurance. So he got all that money, bought all the woodlock, and and then left it in the parking of the temple. That that you could start working on it or you lose your parking lot. So you see, like these are just some arrangements that happen. And externally we see that someone is suffering. But like Srila Haridas Thakur was beaten up as well. But we externally see that there is a suffering, but you don't know where that person is. At the same time, when 9/11 happened in New York, was it 9/11? Yeah, 9/11. So I get confused between Mumbai date and New York date. That's 26 something. Anyway, so when 9/11 happened, there was one religious leader, I think Christian, and his response is very appreciated because so people were very devastated, and they were asking this religious leader, so if your God exists, why are people suffering? This is an atheistic approach, right? And the religious leader said that, I don't know why this is happening, but this is happening by the will of the Lord. How is it happening, why is it happening, I can't tell, but this doesn't shake my faith. So knowing that Krishna has his own arrangements, it's just good to surrender onto it and not question why are you doing this? Because I think I was sharing this past time too. There were two devotees from this temple who went to India, and they met a Shiva devotee, a Gori, And the Shiva devotee knew everything, that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he said that it's not easy to be Krishna's devotee. So I would rather be Shiva's devotee. Because that means a lot of suffering are coming. Krishna has his own way of glorifying, his own way of giving me something, so it's like that. So he does that to glorify his devotee. And all his devotees are have been through something or the other. So that's to glorify.
Thank you. All right, Hare Krishna, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you. Jai. Trivyascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna.
That was a very nice class.
Thank you.
Very nice class.
Thank you so much.
Very, very, very good class. Very so proud of you.
Thank you.
So proud.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Huh?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Oh no, really. I'm very happy that you accepted the opportunity. It was very nice class.
You gave me such a nice verse to recite. Literally appearing. So.
Yeah, So we celebrated the appearance of Hiranyakashipu with
Oh yes. Yeah, that's also there.
It's very nice.
Thank you so much.
If you need some little feedbacks and pointers, let me know. I'll note it down.